All right, so when you're taping out a dress form without anything particularly in mind, you want to have your center front, center back, bust, waist, hips, and armscye taped out. And this is the case not just for your dress form that you're going to use half scale, but also for full scale. And you can see again that I'm pinning so that if I try to pull it away, it won't come undone. The best thing to do is to have one long length of twill tape and cut it off as you go. But I also tend to keep a baggie of twill tape in my kit that I can reuse and reuse and reuse, because I don't want to throw things away every single time. And I might have a super long piece of twill that's still good for taping things out. Sometimes you can get 1/8 inch wide twill or even straight tape, and that's really good because it gives you a finer line, and a finer line means more precision. So I've got my front and my back. Now I'm going to do my side, which I neglected to mention earlier. You may be asking, well, we have seams there already. Why do we need to do this? Well, if you're using a padded out form, you can't find the seams. It also makes it easier to see through any draping material like muslin or something. We also want the shoulder. And something that I like to do with my shoulders is go up into the neck. That way, if I have to put a seam in a collar, a high collar, I've got a good place to do it. These are all of what I would refer to as the vertical balance points. Or not all of, because you still have side back and side front, but we're not going to worry about these for this. Okay. So you can see how that works. The next thing you want to do is place your waistline. Now in this case, I've got a waistline that is, sorry, I'm trying to get the pin so it's not going to kill me. You've got a waistline that is determined by a white tape. You don't necessarily need to do the whole thing. You can just do half. But it's good to know which side of the form you prefer to drape on, because that's the half that you want to tape out. Because again, you only need to drape half a pattern. It's just saving material. Okay, so now I've got my waistline. If you were to work with a padded out form where you needed to locate the waistline somewhere else, you would find that position, but you would be padding it out and knowing where that position is regardless. And then you just double check your measurements when you go through and make sure your waist is the correct distance from your neck to your waist, and front and back, and also armpit to waist is helpful. But you can see I've got my side seam going all the way up to the plate. The plate is not a good armscye representation. Typically on a full-size dress form, you want to be about 3/4 of an inch down and about like a 1/2 inch away from the rest of the plate to create a good armscye. And then, of course, double check your measurements. So now I've got my front, my back, my side, my shoulder. I'm then going to do my bust, which again, you only need to do half of unless you really, really want to do the whole thing. But again, be aware of what side of the form you prefer to drape on. Because if you start draping where you haven't taped out your lines, that's not going to work. So something you may notice about all of these lines is vertical, horizontal is horizontal. They should never be, you know, tilty like that. That's what your design lines for your actual garment want to do. Oh goodness. You do want to pin often enough on your bust and your waist that it's not gonna get jogged somewhere. And in some cases, if you're stacking pins and stacking pins and stacking pins, you can just take out earlier pins and just use one, like that. Okay, so I've got my bust, my waist. What's next? Hips. Hips don't lie. But you do have to measure down from your waist to your hip, which is one of the measurements on our sheet. Again, you only have to do the one side. If you're not sure what side you prefer to drape on, it's a good idea to actually do the entire thing all the way around and just double check that your measurements are symmetrical, just like you did with your padding.
If you have a garment that's asymmetrical,
Oh, yeah, do the whole thing.
Okay.
Asymmetric garment requires asymmetric form lines.
Awesome.
Thank you for, that's a very, very good observation. So these are what I refer to as our horizontals. If you need it, you can also do high hip or under bust. In some cases, you also want to do the blade line, similar to flat patterning, but that's up to you and what it is that you want to see in the patterning that you're going to be doing with draping. Making your armscye, I tend to bring the armscye out to the very edge of the shoulder and then work my way around. Again, in full scale, this would be about like a ½ inch away from the plate. In half scale, I'm coming closer. This may be a good place to use something other than the lemon head pins because they're so long. So like one of these pins, one of the dressmaking pins would be very helpful where you've got like a serious curve going on. And remember, you want it deeper in the front than in the back because arms move forward, not backward, as often. All right. One last little bit of twill tape, and we're done with the basic taping of the form, and that's the neck. So the neck should be at the seam of the dress form. If, again, you're working with a padded dress form, your neck might be a little bit bigger, in which case you want to put like little rolls of that quilter's batting, that cotton batting, and then establish your neck. Ooh, I ran out of pins. Oh goodness.
Perfect timing to run out of pins.
Yeah. So the end result of your taped out, your basic taped out dress form should look like this. So you've got a back and your side pieces, armscye, side, all your horizontals, your shoulder, and your neckline. I typically put a pin right where the bust point will be because that's something I want to indicate in my pattern. This is a good time to check that all of your horizontal lines that are meant to be horizontal are, in fact, horizontal.